All right, friends, I have the BTS angle on this one because you and I are going to get to work. Now, plenty of you have asked me about my file management system, really specifically on the video files that I work with off the SD card from the camera, and then moving those over to an SSD, and then editing on that external drive. And then what do I do with all of those files? How do I organize things? And so you know what? I figured I would just bring you behind the scenes and actually show you what I do to help you out, some tips and tricks. This will actually be relevant to both Windows and Mac OS. I am working on a Mac, but everything will be relevant to both operating systems except for one thing, and I will link up that resource below. So let's get into it. What is going on, you beautiful humans? Welcome back to the channel. And yet today, I'm gonna bring you behind the scenes of my file management system. Timestamps will be throughout the video to help you navigate to where you need to be. However, I think from beginning to end, it will be valuable content. And speaking of the beginning, I actually had OWC send this to me, this Envoy Pro Electron external SSD. We're gonna set it up together. We're gonna format the drive, and just like we're starting from the beginning, I have several videos on editing on SSDs. For those of you who are saying things like, why are you not editing on an NVMe drive or a Thunderbolt 3 drive? Well, I am. I do have that, and I have that video, and I will link that up below. But today, we are working with the USB-C 3.2 drive, so not as fast as Thunderbolt 3, but again, if you check out my videos, then you'll know really what the real world tests were on that. Oh, confetti. All right, pretty simple unboxing here. We're not gonna do any like overhead, crazy B-roll shots of all of this stuff. We're just gonna get it out of the bag. Pretty decent footprint. I'll edit on this. I'll edit on this SSD and I'll let you know what I think. I'll continue to review it though. I assume the cable is under this foam. Yeah. All right, so let's get this thing set up. USB Type-C connection, and it looks like they have the Type-A that you can place over the USB-C, which again, I would recommend Type-C going directly into your Thunderbolt 3 of your Mac or your Windows PC to get that better throughput. All right, let's just move that aside. And let's get this thing connected. So pretty simple, connect it into the back, and then get it on the computer. All right, it's lighting up. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look here, bring you into the screen recorder. So it looks like I've got this OWC set up here on the desktop. Now, with these SSDs, plenty of people have reached out about, oh my gosh, my Samsung T5 or my T7, it's not reading. Here's the thing, these drives come with these, there's a Mac guide, there's a Windows.exe, so executable files to help you set up, to help you guide through. That's the thing. We don't really care about that because I'm going to be formatting this. So we're going to go to disk utility, but there's disk utility right there. And so then what we're going to do here is you'll see that I have the Mac hard drive, and then you will also see that I do have the Extreme SSD, which is connected right now, and then the OWC setup. Now, with the OWC setup, what we want to do is we're going to erase it. So just from the get, we're going to erase it. Now, for Windows-only users, the file system for Windows is NTFS. So I will link a resource down below to help you format your drive. But what I want to share with you, if you are a Windows user and a Mac OS user, or you're working, like as video editors, we work with Windows machines and Mac OS. Some of the editors have Windows. Using the exFAT format will allow it to communicate with both Mac OS and Windows. Now, for me, You might have heard for Mac OS Extended Journaled as far as that's the one to choose. It used to be, however, APFS in the last couple iterations of the operating system of Mac has been more efficient. So I operate with APFS. It's Apple's file system. I think it is more efficient. I've tested both Journaled and APFS, and I do think that APFS does have a slight edge, so that's what we're going to do. And then we click Erase. And then it's unmounting the disk and it's erasing. And then there it is. Click Done. And then you will see up here, nope, that's actually my internal drive. There it is, free, 479 gigabytes. It's a 480 gigabyte SSD. So we pretty much have all the space. So now let's actually get into what I do as far as organizing things, because I shoot for the edit. Okay, so we have OWC brand spanking new here. And what we will do is I right click, I'm gonna create a new folder. We're gonna call this Video File Management. I can't spell. Setup. Okay. Now, what I do is I typically will categorize all of my files as far as where I'm getting those from. So my A6400 is my A cam, my A6500 is my B cam, and you might already be thinking like, why are you doing this? Let's say that I have a GoPro. I do have a GoPro. We're not using one right now. I do have my iPhone 12 mini, and then I also will create assets. So this could be my images, my PNGs, my .jpegs that I bring into my workflow. I'll show you some of that. And then I also have screen shots or screen records. And then I also have my audio, but I do break it out into audio track, meaning my voice, because I record it separately on my Zoom H6, but I also do sound design sometimes. And so sound design _ music. And of course, any music that I put in, I'll probably put music in this video. So I do keep it categorized that way. Now, let's move that aside for a second and let me actually show you what I do. And this actually has probably driven some people nuts, but I believe in this setup. Okay, so let's pretend that I have already put the SD card into my hub. It's sitting here in my hub at the back of my monitor. Now what I do is I label everything. So what I mean by that is I literally go in here, and so you'll see Mac 4K timeline thumbnail options. Those are thumbnail options that I probably worked through to grab a thumbnail for that particular video. I also do _ 1, 2, 3, 4. So this was an angle. So I shot it on the A6400, as you see. And so I put that in because that's going to go into my A6400 folder. And this was me while I'm editing through that timeline. And so I obviously probably turned the camera on and off just for various reasons, because I could have let it run for hours because I was spending hours in front of the computer testing everything. And so you'll see here, for example, this was a shot of the 4K editing on the NVMe, the bundle, and then I moved it over to the internal. So I actually took a shot here where I wanted to show how quick I could move an entire bundle, which was about close to ½ terabyte of information from the NVMe drive over to the internal hard drive. Here is a talking head outro that I did, and it looks like I actually did it twice. So I did a talking head outro there. Maybe there was not something just probably didn't feel right. So I did it again. And so that's why I did the _2 as well. So if I'm shooting B-roll, and I'll show you some sections as well. So if I'm shooting B-roll, I will say things like Mac Mini B-roll on desk _1, Mac Mini B-roll on desk _2. And the reason why I do that is that as a creator, I am someone that will go back to that footage and use a lot of that footage over and over again. So if I can search for it easily, the front load of that work might seem cumbersome, but on the back end, I'm getting a ton of time because for me, again, and as you grow as a creator, you're gonna start to go back to a lot of those video files. And I have had people ask me, but once you render the entire timeline, wouldn't you just get rid of all of that junk, all of those files anyway, because you have that already rendered into a .mp4 and you could still use it? Yes and no. It depends on if I want to get higher res or raw data instead of the compressed, already rendered, transcoded information in that video. And so you'll see the way that the Sony file system is that it's C0714 or C0, I don't know what that is. I can tell you right now what these are as outtakes, things that I probably started to talk and something just I wasn't like, you know, hitting a good rhythm or something. So I didn't even label these. So as you can imagine, if you just dump these files, even if I just dump these files into an A6400 folder and they're not labeled, you do get some conflicts because sometimes what'll happen is that you'll have a file name that it's exactly C0712, which will drive you crazy because then you have to change that file name. And again, I'm able to search for all of this information because I've already labeled it. Now, what I will do is I will actually take that footage and I will move it over, and we're just doing this as a sample because I'm still shooting this video. So this will actually get populated over here. This will get populated as I'm building this video out for you. But just as an example, I will drag this from the SD card over to the external SSD. Now, for client work, for pro work that I'm getting paid for and that I am really careful with those files, because especially if you're traveling, although I'm not traveling these days, but when we were traveling for client work, the SD card, what I would do is I would literally take that footage from the SD card, I would put it on the SSD, and I would take that same footage from the SD card, and put it onto my server. We will talk about the server in a sec, and I'll also give you some options to think about that are more budget friendly. So I'll have a backup on my SD card, my SSD, and the NAS, network attached storage, or my server. So I have 3 backups of all of that raw data of my client work. Sounds kind of crazy, but I do appreciate the redundancy because things can fail. All right, so once I have everything on the SSD, I don't have everything on here, but we're just gonna do an example. I open up Final Cut Pro, and that's already a project that I've worked on. I'll show you this in just a sec. I'm going to go to New, Library, and what we're gonna do is we are going to Video File Management, and I am going to click on the OWC SSD, and I'm going to put the library, the bundle, inside of this folder. So save. Now, oh, that's a look. Now, what I'm going to do here is we are going to import the media. So I'm going to import the media right from the OWC SSD. And I only have media in this one. Import selected. Again, just an example. And then what I need to do is create, so let's just close this library just so that we don't have too much confusion here. Then I'm going to create a new project. Now here's the thing, I have put the bundle and everything I'm working on the external SSD. And so you can see right here, it's on the OWC SSD because I put the bundle in there. Now I'm going to create the new project. I typically edit in a 24 frame timeline. Again, video file management. This is just what I'm calling it. And this is my project. So then I can just bring this down into my timeline. And I'm working on that timeline. However, for those of you who have asked about your current storage, like maybe you only have a 256 gig hard drive internally, I have the 1 terabyte, but again, I do most of my work on external. You might ask, okay, Everything's on the external, yes, original media, raw media, and the bundle itself. However, Final Cut Pro does do, let me show you what they do. Let's clean this up a little bit. Let's just close this. And what they'll do is they create their own backups. Now, what this is, let me just show you. All these projects here, don't get too frightened because of these backups. Let me right click, get info. 360 megabytes of information. Well, it says actually 341 over here, but so it's not taking up that much space with all those projects, because what you will see is, we'll just go into this Area Alexa timeline that I did. These are just database files. So really, like, this folder is 15.4 megabytes. So not a lot. It's database, not original media or anything like that. It just tries to help you and help the system recreate the timeline. So it has intervals of where it will save. And so if something crashes or something happens, then it has those database files. So these are files you could potentially get rid of if you want to, once you're all done. But as far as it taking up a lot of hard drive space on the internal, it doesn't. Okay, so let's actually look at a timeline. This isn't a crazy complicated timeline at all, really. I mean, for some of you, you might think like, wow, I mean, I've done pretty complex timelines, but it's pretty significant, right? Well, look over here where I have all of this information. So I have all of like audio and visuals, like my video. So here's another reason why I label everything. Let's say that I need the gaming clip. There it is. It pulled up my gaming video that I pulled in. Let's say I pulled in some B-roll from the Apple event to put in here. Apple event. Whoops. There it is. Apple M1 event. Yeah. So there it is. Like, if I needed to grab a clip, I can quickly get to it versus me trying to say C0704.mp4 or something like that. So again, it helps that workflow. In the beginning, again, take some time, get you that time back on the back end, because as you'll see, look at all of these clips that I have throughout, just to offer some cutaways and some B-roll for all of that. And then again, I can also organize my audio tracks, my sound effects, anything that I add, I can search it in this search bar. Now, of course, your editor may be a little bit different, but in Final Cut Pro, I have that option. Now, to save space, something that I do is I go through some B-roll and I make sure that, you know, when I do 3 and 4 different cuts of that B-roll, and let's say that I just don't use 2 or 3 of them, I will go through after I've already rendered, after I've already uploaded, and just clean things up. And if there's B-roll that I just didn't use, I will get rid of it. I will delete it and just move it off of the SSD and move it to the trash and just get rid of it because I don't need it. However, there are some B-roll shots that I do like to keep. So that's why I keep everything organized. And that's another reason, like, if eventually I decide I don't want that footage anymore, but there's certain pieces I do want, I can go to those specific folders and remove it and not be worried that I deleted the wrong thing. All right, so for those Final Cut Pro users, let me just show you a quick tip here. So I have this project open, it's done. That was the one that was in that timeline. Let's show you. So you'll see right here, 90 gigabytes of data. I think that was actually higher. So let's right click on that, show package contents, and we're gonna go into the date of that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of, so the transcoded media, we're going to get rid of that. We are going to get rid of the render and shared items. Original media, we're gonna keep those in, even though the original media is in another folder, but sometimes it's really hard to reconnect that in the timeline. We're going to get rid of the analysis files, which is likely some, optical flow and some stabilization that I did, which this can all be done, redone. So I am going to empty the trash. Yep, gonna empty it. And so then what we're gonna do is we are going to go back to the bundle, and you'll see that we didn't save a ton. I mean, we cut it down to about half. We cut it down to about half. So let me actually just open that back up for you. And we will go to that particular bundle, look at all that footage. And it just repopulates everything. It just hasn't been transcoded or rendered or, optical flow or anything like that. So it's still there. All of the files are there, and I can re-render and export if I need to. So that'll actually save you a little bit of space. All right, so moving further into saving some space and where to put your footage, plenty of you have asked me, well, can I just put it on my external SSD? I would recommend that your external SSDs are your working drives, your scratch drives, those things that are constantly reading and writing nonstop that you're using day in and day out. A couple of reasons being is that SSDs, they're great. You can use them as backup. However, I would recommend more of a hard disk drive, the spinning disk drives. Those are really utilized and built for archiving. Not to mention, they're much cheaper per gigabyte. So for example, a Samsung T5 is around 129, maybe, so 130 bucks US for a 1 terabyte drive. However, you could potentially get a hard disk drive setup, something like an Easy Store, for your desktop for like 4 terabyte to like a 6 terabyte setup for roughly the same price or just under maybe $200. And that could be a way that you could store and archive all of that footage. Now, I have a Synology network attached storage because I have 40, 50 terabytes of data, and I'm scaling up. So that's on the higher budget, and that's for a separate video altogether. However, recommending something to you, I would say you could start with something like the Easy Store, and I'll link up a couple of options, but I do also recommend having a setup that at least has 2 hard disk drives so that you can set that up in a RAID, meaning that if one drive fails, gets corrupted, or something happens, the other drive has made a copy of that information. And for client work, what I also do is I will literally upload that to a cloud service like Amazon's cloud service just to keep those files double, like extra backed up. I mean, redundancy is key, especially when you're getting paid for this. Now, you'll see here that I have my YouTube videos. So on the left here in this margin, Central Station right here, that's the network attached storage. And these are my YouTube videos. Now, when we go in here, let's see, what do we have? Review videos. These are the review videos that I have done. And so everything has its own folder. It's all labeled because I've already done it. I've already labeled it. I've already categorized it. And then when I'm done with it, literally like this, I can just come over here and drag it over. And there it is, because it's attached within my network. Now, of course, I don't want to move that over there for like right now. But you can also disconnect the SSD, plug it into the back of that. Again, some of the other options that can set up on your desktop, you can plug your media, your SD cards sometimes, or your SSDs right into the back or the front of it to move all of that information over, to help protect it, archive it, so that you can clean off the SSD and start fresh. But as you'll see, I've got multiple projects going on my SSDs. You really can't have too many SSDs. I have quite a few of them, and I really appreciate them. But anyway, that's really my workflow. And so if there's any questions, anything specific that I didn't really answer, I didn't really take notes because this is literally, I walked you through what I do. Like, this is what I do every day when I'm recording, cutting, editing, correcting, all of that stuff, and then archiving it. That's my exact workflow. All right, I'm pretty sure that you have some questions, and that is okay. Hit me up in the comment section below because I'm trying to still respond to as many of you as I possibly can. Certainly hit me up on Twitter because I'm over there with a bunch of other creators as well. And feel free to just model this how you need to. Take it verbatim if you want. That's totally fine. I don't mind. And just make it work for you. Go out there and do those things that matter. Please keep rocking the faces and being a good human. I will keep creating some content for you here, some more value. I appreciate your time and attention on this one. So until we meet again, I appreciate it. Go do those things, and I'll catch you right back here on the next one.